Welcome to the developers presentation to members of the planning committee, where major pre-application proposals are put forward for discussion. Please can you ensure your microphones are muted when not speaking, and apart from members, all video cameras should be turned off except for the time you are presenting. In accordance with the original protocol for this forum, this is a meeting in public rather than a public meeting. This means all members of the public can attend and observe the meeting. They will not be able to speak or ask questions. All members of the planning committee and local ward members have been invited to hear the presentation of development proposals relating to the site. We also invited IBAF councillors. Obviously, they'll be interested in their area forum. Okay, the site to be considered is Gillett Building 101 Stein Lane. Just a reminder that a purpose of the meeting is to allow developers to explain their schemes to members, as well as any stakeholders and the public who attend prior to the submission of the application. It's not a substitute for the community consultation. This is also not a decision-making body, and not all the issues will be able to be addressed, as the presentations are not a planning application. The applicant will be given 20 minutes for presentation, after which I'll invite planning committee members and then the ward councillors, and time permitting, I will allow IBAF councillors to ask questions or any comments. The developer will then respond. To enable the meeting to run smoothly, I will ask members to speak in turn and come to the chair, please. Can all the councillors of the planning committee please remember that they must not indicate any final view of the scheme so that they do not prejudice any later decision on the planning application. Members can indicate issues of concern or highlights where further information may be required. So I'll pass you on to the applicant. You're given 20 minutes when you start your presentation. Thank you.
Right, can you hear us and see us okay?
Yes, we can, yeah.
Right. See the presentation. Presentation clear for you?
Yes, I'm sure all the members can see it.
There we go, into full screen mode.
It would, yeah, now if you put it on a full screen mode, that would be better.
You got it? You see okay now? I think there might be a slight lag. Okay, delighted to introduce ourselves, Tim.
So Tim Robinson from the developers, the Vinyl Factory.
Dave Watson from Gensler. We're a global design firm, industry leading in design for film and TV studios globally.
And Daniel Brighton from the Vinyl Factory too.
So I thought we'd start just with a quick outline of the Vinyl Factory. The company was founded in 2001 when we acquired the former EMI vinyl record plant in Hayes, Middlesex. This is a record plant that we still own and continues to thrive. But the company has then expanded into various projects, particularly in Soho and the Strand, where we're talking from now, as well as in Brighton, Windsor and Berlin. We have a particular track record in revitalising historic and listed buildings, and we do this through investing in creative industry-led businesses and through supporting emerging talent. Our principal operation is at 180 The Strand, of which everyone is welcome to come to. And it's very much it's become very much London's creative, at the heart of really London's creative community. It's an iconic brutalist building, Portland stone clad, and it's very much been transferred over the last 5 to 6 years into a core creative centre. At the heart of that is 180 Studios, which is a network of production and exhibition spaces that principally supports emerging talents and provides a national and global platform for creative industries and artists, including giving opportunities to young artists and filmmakers. We've been involved with the site since 2013, and during that time, we have accommodated 12 major productions from all the major studios, including Sony, Fox, Paramount, Amazon, CBS, and MGM. That's a very brief history. I can very happy to meet anybody here and to explain it more in further detail, or indeed at the record plant in Hayes, which I know some councillors have expressed an interest in seeing.
Great, thanks, Tim. For Gensler, we have 300 people here in London, although we have a global design firm working with some of the biggest companies in film, TV, and media. We've also developed a specialism out of London in adaptive reuse and repositioning, so breathing new life into old buildings, making the most of our existing assets and bringing something new to them. We use the example here of the central London location of 90 Longacre. So, to the scheme and the context. Just hand over to our planning consultant, Simon, for this slide.
Okay, thank you, David. Yes, just to provide a little bit of background and context on the planning side. So the Gillette site obviously has a historical use as a factory, but it's been in use for film production, as we've heard, for most of the last 10 years. While the film production use has been making use of the existing buildings, the site really has a lot more to offer. The proposal is not about a huge increase in space or mass of the buildings on the site. What's proposed is roughly the same as the floor spaces existing, but it's hugely significant in terms of its quality. It responds to the huge need for high quality studio space, and a key statistic we've got here is a need for 2.3 million square foot across the UK by 2033. And this is an ideal location in which to meet that need, and it's something that's been endorsed in the initial discussions that have been had with the British Film Council and Film London. It's also a use that has strong support at all levels of planning policy, not just around the employment designation and the drive for more jobs in this area, but also specifically around the growth of the creative industries in this area. This has fed through to the council's specific vision for this site and its emerging local plan and the Great West Corridor Master Plan, which is for a major new creative hub drawing on its unique heritage to deliver flexible creative film, digital and media, including studios. And so the proposal, which is David's going to start to take you through now, is closely aligned with this vision, both in terms of its use and also respect for the site's heritage. So pass back to David.
Thanks, Simon. And just whilst we're on this slide, to point out perhaps the obvious, but we're here on Scion Lane. Our site is here, and the little star, and at the corner, at the gateway, really. And I think this slide shows that we're at the gateway of the Great West Road and some fantastic Golden Mile in the history of the Art Deco buildings. A real string of jewels along that Golden Mile. So our approach, our design approach, really is heritage-led, and we're hugely inspired by the history of this site, the 1935 original history in particular. It's a Sir Bannister Fletcher, a relatively rare example of one of his buildings. But a real honour for us, really, to take a deep dive into the history and heritage. He's one of the godfathers of architectural history, being the author of a history of Western architecture, which is a staple of architecture schools around the world, recently updated in 2018. So what did he do here? He did a great job of really future thinking office accommodation across this south elevation and this continuous brick frontage. We also have a little gem in the NatWest Bank that was the on-site bank, dispensing the wages at the end of the week. And what we're showing in this drawing is all the elements that we're retaining. So we're deriving inspiration from the architectural features, but actually in terms of overall site retention, we're also across the generations of buildings, they're retaining over 70% of the existing buildings. So all that in green is being retained. Dark green is listed, light green is retention. So we have just a quick run through the site. These two axonometrics, these aerial views show our red line site boundary as it goes up Harlequin Lane to the north around the existing car park, and then bordering with Sky Studios over to the north side there. The existing listed fabric of the original Gillette building and the NatWest, and that pairs with the image below where we see that frontage and the leafy setting, and you can start to see the scale and massing of the intervention of new studios behind this original brick frontage, which continues with the Campbell's building. So the Campbell's building is not listed, but it does continue this quite restrained, stripped back Art Deco brick facade. So top right on this page, we have all of the large studio spaces that are being inserted into the site. So we have two 20,000 square foot stages there, the ones that you can see below in the image here. The view is looking across the junction here between the NatWest building and the original office building, and we get the side here of the largest volumes of the studios. 20,000 square feet, by the way, is absolutely what the industry is demanding. It's a great size for film and TV studios. In the U shape of the existing Gillette building, where currently there's a single-story sawtooth workshop, we're inserting a pair of 20,000 square feet, which are immediately adjacent to fantastic workshop facilities and first floor flexible studio space. Again, this is all retained. We then have two smaller studios, well adept to unscripted, and they are neighbored by the original car parking site, which extends to serve the increased capacity of the site, optimal usage of the site. The blue boundary, it's worth saying, is also within the ownership of the applicant, and there's no proposals to adapt that space currently. So overall, this is the CGI of the proposals, and I think this gives a real strong impression of the cluster here. Great location in terms of accessibility, but also the cluster combining with the large Sky Studios campus site. So in summary, we've got 9 sound stages overall. We've got 7 new in there. This building here, which looks like one of the sound stages. This is an original factory building, which is great and is already being used as a workshop and occasionally as film studios. We've got screening and support spaces that are repurposing the original office spaces in the original building. So our architectural approach is really drawing on that Art Deco inspiration, which has a lot of vertical articulation in the fenestration and the brickwork, but also a sense of celebration and optimism. So combining that kind of internationalism of the 1930s, bringing it up to date with a modern twist. That south elevation as well, we also have a real sense of placemaking. This setting is already has the great benefit of the trees, that leafy setting we saw in the initial image. That's the row of trees across the front. Then sitting behind that, we're offering an interesting variety of planting. So the main entrance is where we have the number 1, and adjacent to that we have a little pocket park waiting area, which is a kind of traditional garden. It's a interesting, almost domestic scale with the original engineer's house located here, almost like a gatehouse. Then as we move across the frontage, we have permeable paving. We've got additional cycle storage. We're enhancing the entrance externally and internally around that grand central clock tower position. Then we re-landscape the green perimeter. And then around the cluster of cycle parking, we have another mini pocket space, and then a little variety in front of the bank where we have a grassland planted out. And then we go for the more architectural planting that we can see in that kind of sculpted hedging across the frontage of the Campbell's building. So this variety is great visually, and it's that kind of thematically linked to the buildings and the activity, but it's also great for the biodiversity net gain, which we are exceeding by 10%. So sustainability underpins all of the design. So working from left to right across this is a sectional perspective. We've got the clock tower to locate you there. We've got the new insertion of film studios centrally, and then the repurposed existing workshop spaces on the right-hand side of the image. So to the left, we're able to use those existing assets, really optimize the daylighting there. We're reusing the original plant spaces at rooftop level, bringing in state-of-the-art heat pumps, which are much more efficient. We're investigating the prefabrication construction techniques to be able to build this safely and quickly and use responsible materials. This large roofscape really lends itself to a high level of photovoltaic on-site renewable generation. We've got new clusters of cycle facilities and all of the expected technological upgrades in terms of intelligent user control and smart metering. So what does that look like? I've mentioned the Campbell's building a few times. This is it at the top left-hand side of this slide. That building retention, we did look at options of a little bit larger film studio space, which would include demolition of that, but retaining it as a real complementary use immediately adjacent office space against the film studio is ideal. We're investigating optimizing sustainable materials from a structural and construction point of view, particularly in the wall construction. I mentioned the PV panels there, and the ground source heat pump opportunity of tapping into the Brentford aquifer to reduce our operational carbon. Urban greening factor, as mentioned, seeking to increase biodiversity above the 10% mark. So over to Simon for a note on transport before we move to wrap up the presentation.
Okay, thank you, David. So we understand that transport is a hugely important issue, and we've been working with officers both at TfL and Hounslow to agree a robust methodology for assessing all the impacts, both in terms of traffic, local highways, and also on public transport. And as a first step in this, we've undertaken surveys of local roads, but looking at these surveys in the context of the longer term patterns that happen on these roads. The details of the assessment are still being worked through at the moment, but they will form a key part of the application material that will be subject to scrutiny. The approach needs to reflect the nature of the film studio use, which has different travel patterns from conventional industrial uses. So the approach we're working on the transport methodology, it closely follows that which has been accepted on other film studio uses elsewhere in London. It does point to a slightly higher requirement for car parking, but that doesn't necessarily translate into more travel in the busiest hours because of the way the working patterns are spread out across the day with more activity outside of the normal working hours. We're currently looking at feasibility of how far we can reduce the parking numbers from the originally identified requirement, and also looking at opportunities of how we can promote sustainable travel on the site, such as the cycle parking provision on the site, the inclusion of electric charging spaces, and also in terms of the design approach that Genza has taken to the car park that would allow it to be repurposed in the future if there is the re-evaluation of the car parking need for the site. So David, I don't know if you want to say anything else on the repurposing of the car park.
Yeah, that's largely a structural consideration, but you can see here as the step change in uses happens over time, we can still make optimal use of the site by repurposing it for office or support facilities for the film and TV studios, which is something that we've done over in the States and is an increasing trend that we're seeing now. Thanks, Simon.
Thank you. So just to finish on, we're going to summarise some of the community and economic benefits of the proposals. Clearly, there's a huge heritage benefit in securing a long-term use that's going to care for and breathe new life into this treasured historic building. But that's beyond the Gillette building, and we're also looking at proposals to bring the NatWest Bank building into use as a public cafe. In terms of the economic benefits, we're estimating a total of up to 3,400 permanent jobs, of which more than 1,000 are estimated to come from Hounslow. These are not all jobs on the site. We're looking at direct jobs on the site and also indirect sites jobs in the local economy. In terms of total added value from Hounslow, there's some really significant figures here of between 555 and 819 million pounds over a 10-year period. So that Hounslow figure is obviously really important, and this calculation has been informed by looking at the local supply chain and the concentration of creative media and related industries that there are already in this area, which is something that this proposal can benefit from, and also help to grow as well. So we'll be looking at ways to work with officers at Hounslow and local partners to try and enhance the opportunities for local workers and also for the local supply chain businesses. This could involve things like working with local forums and business groups to identify potential suppliers and promote opportunities, priority local advertising for jobs and opportunities, and also creating links with education providers. So we think there's some really important community benefits that we're looking forward to working with you on over the coming months over the application. So that takes us to the end of the presentation. We're obviously very keen to hear your thoughts and questions you have following the presentation. As a next step, we'll also be putting these details onto a lot of these details onto a website and sending the details to you and to local residents to be able to review and digest at home, and offer opportunities to comment and ask questions beyond this forum as well as we work towards a submission of a planning application.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, if you can take this off the screen, please, the presentation, I can see who's asking questions. Okay, I'll take questions from members first, members of the committee. Please put your hand up if you want a question. Okay. Right, hang on a minute. I've got CS, who's this councillor?
So there's Councillor Lal first.
Councillor Lal first, okay, Councillor Lal.
Hi, Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can, yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you very much for the presentation, and it's welcome to see that the Gillette site is going to be put to some use after such a long time. My question, Chair, is to do with the demand side of things. 2.3 million square feet of additional studio space you mentioned by 2023. I also am aware that there's another studio going up in Hayes, just on the outskirts of Southall as well. I just wanted to know what's driving this surge in studio space demand.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, who's going to take this question?
Yeah, we could take that one. It's technological change and demand from inward investment, as well as the technological change. So, as we know, even just on the telephone these days, we're so able to access film and TV. We're able to produce film and TV. The industry is growing at its fastest rate. I think there is also an attractive climate in London, in the London area, both financially and culturally. So we've seen a steady path over the last 5 years of major players coming, particularly from the US. It's because of our talent as well, which I put under the banner of culture. We've got a great history of film production here. And I think the combination of the talent and the craft, and the combination of that with a vision of what the technology of the future can do, makes the London and the South Southeast a really compelling destination for the major global players.
Yeah, I mean, I could add to that. I think certainly West London, there is a tremendous history and there is a depth of resources there, from the set builders through to the script writers. And so I think the major US studios are particularly attracted to that. It's become an increasing trend that they come over here, I think, coming away from Hollywood and those areas, and the selected site is the UK. There are obviously tax benefits that go with it, which is vital for the industry to continue to thrive, but hopefully that is well recognised. But you've seen a lot of, certainly most of the existing facilities are already full. Certainly if you go to Pinewood and go to Shepperton and into Ealing, and certainly this studio as well, we're always inundated with interest from shoots and from studios, from the whole full range of studios. So there's we've seen firsthand a very significant demand for it.
Okay, next one, I think John Todd. Yeah, okay, Councillor Todd, you're next. You're muted. Councillor Todd, you're muted. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Sorry about that. I was trying to follow your instructions, Chair. Yeah, gentlemen, I thought your transport strategy was a statement of intent rather than fact. No mention of public transport, which is very poor, I understand. It's not my ward, but other colleagues would agree with that. You don't mention a number of car parking spaces. You dropped in the mandatory cycle racks. But where, and you mentioned a variable transport moving on site, but can you put some meat on the sandwich? How are you going to improve public transport? How are you going to make communication more effective?
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I can pick that up. So in terms of in intent and meat, if you like, I think that reflects where we are in the current discussions, in that we everything, both in terms of the provision of parking, the assessment of effects, and identification in terms of what contributions there might be towards improving public transport. It will come from the evidence, and that evidence is based on inputs that we need to make sure are robust and agreed with officers at TfL and officers at Hounslow. We're still in that process at the moment, which is why we can't be as definitive and specific and say, you know, this is the final number of parking spaces, or, you know, this is the impact that has been identified and agreed. We're still in that process at the moment, but we're kind of moving through that journey at the moment with TfL, agreeing a methodology which reflects one that's been used elsewhere on film studios in Ealing and in Dagenham, just to try and make sure that the figures and the impacts that come out are robust. So at the moment, the figure that we had up on screen in terms of car parking spaces was 750 spaces, which was something that was identified as an initial requirement. The discussions we've had with TfL and Hounslow we're seeking to reduce that number, but at the moment we haven't settled on what exactly that will be, because there's clearly a need to balance the kind of commercial and operational requirements of car parking and the nature of the film studio use with you know, a need to kind of, you know, encourage that, you know, modal shift away from cars and to public transport.
Okay, are you okay, Councillor Todd?
Yeah, very helpful. Thanks very much indeed, Robert. Mr. Robert
Thank
Simon.
you. Okay, any more questions from members of the committee first, please? I can't see any hands. Can you see any hands, Kiri? No?
Yeah, Councillor Todd again, potentially.
I'll go on then. Councillor
Okay.
Todd?
Yep, I'm fascinated about the building. And you say, when you looked at your plans, the amount of listed stuff you've had to keep, that's very bad language. What does that feature? What's inhibited you developing this site, the listing?
Nothing, quite the contrary. It's you know, very usable space. You know, it's very, you know, the existing Gillette building as designed in the 1930s, had the well-being of a lot of office workers in mind. And one of the main complementary uses to the sound and the sound stages of the film and TV industry is they need a lot of office space. They need some hair and makeup support. They need a lot of workshop space, and we've got great workshop space there already. And this office space is brilliant. You can see from the outside those large format windows bringing in a lot of daylight. It's a desirable place to work. So yeah, not an inhibition, but both a kind of functional and inspirational benefit to the youth.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Okay, Councillor Bhatti.
Thank you, Chair, very much. Yes, brilliant presentation. Very pleased to hear that the building would be used eventually. Question, when is the final date when it'll all be completed and functioning, provided the permission is granted? And what are your plans to support the local structure? And like Councillor Todd has said about the transport services, not really that great. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Right. Who's answering it?
Shall I jump in with the second part first, and then maybe you can come back to the timescale? But just in terms of support for local infrastructure, so there's kind of two sides to this. One would be a more standard contribution under the community infrastructure levy, which goes into a pool that the council can use for spending on local infrastructure requirements. But as part of the assessment that we do, so that's not just transport, but I think in this case it will primarily be around transport, looking at what the impacts of the development are, what the pressures that get put on the local transport network. There's liaison and consultation with those public transport providers such as TfL and Network Rail. They look at their capacity and they identify what their needs are, and that, you know, there is a likely requirement for some form of financial contributions around those, but, you know, really it needs to be something that's done in conjunction with those providers. So that's something that we will get into with the officers and work through the application process. Tim, I don't know if you want to pick up the timescale point in terms of the overall delivery.
Yep. You're mute, David. You're muted.
Sorry, just unmuting.
Yeah.
Yeah, just in terms of other.
Just in terms of infrastructure approach, I think what we're really passionate about and what's needed most, and the biggest support we can do, is training within the community to bring on young talent to use the studios we're building here, and particularly the new format of studio that's coming through game technology being repurposed and reused to create film. The big revolution that's happening in the film world in the next 10 years will be that the young kids of the area will all be very familiar with playing games. Every young person is these days, and inspiring them to become the new technology film leaders by using what their hobby is to become a career is a big part of what we want to do in the area, in the building. And our real play is to work with the local schools, local universities and colleges in creating the new technical talent of the future. The big shortage that the UK is facing in developing its film business, and the new film business that's developing with all the screen technology and game technology that can mean a film can be shot in a different way, is a shortage of global talent. And part of our job to sustain the industry is to create and help train that talent. The people that are going to make these films and the people that understand to use the new technology are not the existing industry guys. They're people under 21. And it's a fantastic opportunity, aspirational opportunity for the young people of your area. And that is what we've really got to focus on together, how we inspire them, train them, and get them into work in these jobs. And that's our real mission and our real passion, actually.
Okay, Councillor Bhatti, you got a supplementary?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Brilliant to hear all this great explanation. Super. And lovely to know there's 3,500 people maybe employed, 1,000 local people. That obviously bring in people to live in local area, and then amenities, schools, GP practices. Is there any plan of those in your scheme of things? Thank
Yeah,
you,
I
Chair.
think, I mean, obviously though, but we're not a housing scheme. What we want to do is train young people to get work in these new technologies. That's our main push. And we're happy to commit money, work with the schools, colleges to do that. I think that's why emphasis should be, because we want people who already live in the area to come and work down the road in highly paid aspirational jobs. And so we want to concentrate on that, and we're happy to work with that and contribute money and back these courses to bring people into work in these industries. That is a big challenge, training young people.
Thank you. You're prepared to contribute towards those.
100%, more than not just prepared, want to, it's part of our mission and our aim. And, you know, we'll nail ourselves to that. Without that talent, there are no studios of the future.
Thank you very much, Chair. And maybe Tony would have something to add to it.
Thank you. Can you take your hand off, please, Mr. Bhatti, Councillor Bhatti? Okay, Councillor Luki next, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Who's that was just speaking there, answering the question on?
I couldn't see
it.
anybody.
I can only see.
David.
David.
Space.
Yeah.
Sorry. So I couldn't fit into the small space.
Yeah, I know. But who's that? Who's that?
It's Mark Wadworth. Mark Wadworth.
Okay. Hello. How are you? Yeah. No. Look, we came down and had a look. About 6 weeks ago. A few councillors from the IBAF came down and had a look, and it was good what we saw and what we heard. But now we're talking about a little bit more nitty gritty now. Things that might concern a few people locally is we've got the entrances there on the on the map, on the drawing there. We've got entrances from the front from Sion Lane, but I think that if your car park's going to be down at down on Harlequin Avenue, there's likely to be most car access is going to be via Harlequin Avenue, but Great West Road and Harlequin Avenue. Yeah, we know that, and if and that other side across the road is not going to be developed yet, but that is in your ownership, and that is.
It's not in our ownership, no.
So that's not in your. That's not.
No, sorry, what's
Harlequin Avenue.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, that's all right. So we would have concerns there in the future, perhaps when that's developed, and particularly if car parking is required for that, in the absence of any addition to transport infrastructure. I think transport infrastructure is important there. Whilst we do have Sion Lane Station, if you are looking at a 24-hour development, 24-hour operation, then we will be expecting, I think, some contribution on transport, on public transport, whether it's or some improved transport, possibly of a 24-hour nature, or however it works, or whatever's required. We have as a member of the planning committee and also ward councillor, and we have experience of promises there on transport. Transport infrastructure is adequate, whether it's roads, whether it's railway, whether it's buses. It's adequate. We know it's not adequate. You know, promises on a couple of the developments recently have shown that there's an extra demand for road use. So if you would bear that in mind, please, and officers will bear that in mind, because with respect. All right, let me just talk about Transport for London. They don't always get it right. I'm not going to mention anything about our own officers, but Transport for London do not always get it right. And please look at that. Some people who've seen the drawing already and have been in touch are concerned about what's the height and the appearance of what's going on, what is proposed for the back of the Campbell's building. The for members, that's the one on the corner of Harlequin Avenue, Great West Road, next to NatWest Bank. From that perspective, from the perspective shown on the drawing, we see that we note that some people are, let me just say, some people said they were scared of the height and the massing there and how it will affect the Gillette building. What you know, how high is that in comparison to the tower? And that's quite high. That goes quite tall, doesn't it? The tower beyond the roof space of the Gillette building. And what materials are we looking at there? And have any other types of materials been considered? Why is the height? Why would it be required at that height? It's not as high as the old blue factory at the back, is it? Where we're not looking at we're looking at a little bit taller there, aren't we? From where your current studios are operating from.
Yeah, it's a good question, Councillor Lukey. It's driven by the function of the studio inside. So this optimal size for the industry of this 20,000 square feet really comes with that demand for the height, the clear height, to shoot the scenes. You know, that's what we need. We need to get the lighting in there. We need to get the cameras in there, and it's driven from that. And with regards to the listed building and that setting, I think it is a strong set piece. It's an appropriate scale of massing alongside the Gillette building. The NatWest has always been a smaller building. You know, it's amongst larger industrial buildings. And I think that the idea, to your point, your question on materials, we've gone for a deliberate contrast there. So whilst the interventions with the existing Campbell's building are in keeping, when we have these larger volumes, it is a more industrial language. It's painted metal. Yeah, but what we've done is introduce a vertical articulation that directly reference the vertical articulation of the Gillette building, the modular articulation of Campbell's and the NatWest. So we see a continuity going from those, you know, strong street-facing brick buildings. We're taking that into the more industrial aesthetic of the large film studios. And you know, I think we've tried to push it a little further. So the approach to the massing there is one thing, but also breaking it down into thirds. We have a kind of a strata effect. So we link in, we have a bit of a relationship between new and old with where we draw those lines, the lower portion, the upper portion, and then a position for some signage at the upper level. So that, you know, the intention is quite the opposite of being scary, that we can understand these are film studios. The idea of having a bit of a celebration at the gateway point where we're showing indicatively the signage for 180 studios is to celebrate that fact. And I think that's in keeping with the history of the Art Deco and the film studio use there.
Okay, thanks. Noted. Yeah, noted.
Go on, you've got supplement?
Yeah, got quite a few.
Okay,
as you would expect.
no problem. Yeah.
Can you describe the? I think we Daniel Brighton explained this when we were walking around, and Mr. Robinson did as well. Tim, describe the jobs that we're looking at. Describe the core jobs. How many core jobs and the type of core jobs on site all the time, and versus the other jobs that the other employment that would be coming in. And if you've drawn a radius around Gillette Corner to consider where the other folk will be coming in from, please.
Okay, who's taking it?
Do you want to? I can say the core jobs, but how they enter is
yeah. We're just unpacking the question a little, Councillor Lukey. Simon, could you take the question about the economic
core jobs?
Yeah, and I think Mark would like to chime in on the core jobs too.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then we'll come back to the radius.
So I'll start with the core jobs.
Okay.
I mean, the core jobs range from people ordering materials, production people, people doing makeup, people doing lighting, people doing set build, people, the cameraman, people doing electrical work. I mean, they're all highly skilled and highly paid. And then all the production team that goes with that, and then the backup that needs to service all those people.
So you'll have those, sorry, Mark, you'll have all those people there on site as a resource on site for.
A studio like this is working every day. So yes. Those people are coming in. All those people work as freelancers, and part of that is the industry. And the reason why this is such a suitable place to. Most of the guys are talented at the moment. Most probably won't go to Dagenham at the moment. They don't need to. They'll stay in the West London.
Yeah.
Exactly. They'll stay in the West London area. Having said that, over a period of time, if you don't solidify and put studios in the area, the talent will dissipate out over a period of time. So that's the current talent. They're working there all the time, and they most of that talent live local or within quite local to or in your borough. And quite local to it. And then there's the new world. The new world of the film industry is going to be using game technology, big screen backdrops. You can create a whole film in a different type of studio. And that is the world that is the future. That is the world with which, in many ways, we want to be training young people and leading the revolution that's going to happen. At the moment, there is the amount of people that will use that sort of technology is limited because the older crew, the older people, everyone else doesn't quite know how to use it, isn't confident. That revolution is going to be like the revolution that happened with vinyl, which we make, to CDs, to now digital. It's going to happen. And that, in many ways, answers some of your transport questions. We've got to get out training people locally so that you don't lose your center of excellence for the old film industry into the new film industry. And our passionate belief is by doing that in every way, your transport issues change because suddenly people aren't commuting, they're local. Back to the old days, back to where this factory happened. It's a local hub for where everyone in the area or some people in the area worked. That is what we're going to make happen.
Yeah, they'll still have to get there though, Mark. You know, that's
no, I know, but local. And we've got to then work out how to make that happen. And work out how the training happens. That is what we've got to do together. I'm happy to come and work and go visit the schools, see who needs funding, visit the local colleges, and try and make this happen and try and inspire people to have great work in things they want to do. You know, people want to work in this sort of stuff. Let's try and inspire them to make it happen. So that's the sort of core job. The old jobs and what I'm passionate about and what we want the studio to also represent the new jobs. And then how people get in on the old jobs. What's good about it is they work 24 hours, so they come in over periods of time. And in the old current studio faction, they work quite long hours. So that then when the film's on, it's on. You're not leaving in a rush hour type period. You're leaving at different periods.
Understood. Yeah, we understand.
Councillor Luki, can you hold on for a second, please? Yeah. Whoever's answering the question, can you have your camera on, please? We can't see who's answering the question.
See him.
Sorry, I have to come.
I'll come over here.
Where is he?
We just want to see.
He's the governor, isn't he? He's one of the governors, isn't he?
I'm not the governor.
I said you're one of them. I said you're one of them. You're one of them.
Oh,
I'm not.
There we go.
Oh, you're not. What are you doing? What, they get you off the street today? What's going on?
So, I'm not a governor. I'm the creative director and the person who understands the value of the new world that's coming of creativity and the new skills and techniques you need.
All right. We appreciate that. We appreciate that. We have a good conversation.
And I'm superbly sorry. I'm
he's not for the technology chair. I
just want to speak to you passionately.
He's looking the other way.
I'm passionate, but I am passionate about the new opportunities that are arising for the UK creative industries and how we train young people to be in it. I'm super passionate about it, and really these studios are really hopefully going to be about that.
We've worked that one out. When we did come down to Gillette, a few weeks back, we did discuss that, and one thing that we particularly discussed and raised is the need to connect with West Thames College and University of West London. And West Thames College is an exemplar in tertiary education for that. They've got their own studios and similar, and they knock out an awful lot of good talent there, and talent that was ignored by Murdoch period Sky as well. So but
yeah, because they're very old-fashioned.
Sorry,
Sky is very old-fashioned.
yeah,
Very
no,
old-fashioned.
yeah, he's 99, isn't he? Yeah.
Okay.
And finally, we want if you want friends on this, we did have again, we had the discussion when we visited. Can you open it up a little bit more during the period of consultation? This won't be your only consultation, I hope. Well, no, it won't be. We would insist on the applicants consulting further, and a lot of people are interested in the building. It's a lot of people's auntie. A lot of people have got a great connection and love for it. So if you can allow some visits and some displays and exhibitions down in the building over the next few weeks, so that you can get some feedback there, that would be very welcome. A lot of people, see Councillor Marina Sharma's nodding. A lot of people locally would like to have a look. When we posted some pictures. Sorry?
That is certainly part of the plan. It's Daniel speaking. Yeah, that's certainly part of the plan. After we have this presentation, we're looking to go live on the public consultation website, and there'll be a number of evenings or afternoons where there'll be a drop in, and there'll be boards up. We'll be down there present to take questions.
That'll be good. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah,
Look, thank you, Chair. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Okay, I can't see any more hands from the committee members. I'll go to the ward councillors now. Councillor Siddiqui. Can you unmute yourself, please? Yeah, that's it. No, you're still muted.
Thank you very much,
That's
Chair.
it.
Thank you very much. And I think a huge thanks to the team who presented today, David, Tim, Mark, Robert. I think it's an excellent presentation. Gives us, as a local councillor of this ward, it just gives us a little bit of flavor of what would be coming. And I think and a little bit of concern in terms of the massing, which was discussed earlier. And starting with probably, saying that the site does looks a little bit empowering the old Gillett building, and I'm sure if the height is a concern, there could be some design elements that it does kind of help us merge with the existing building and show us that we are preserving the look and feel and the prestige of the building, which is sitting there for since 1930s. So that's a concern, and I'm not an architect, so I raise my hand. I say I can only sort of provide an input from a perspective of a local resident who looks at this building day in, day out, and being a local councillor. So I would leave that with David and his team in terms of how they could be more sympathetic. I fully appreciate to bring the modern and the previous or the old, in tandem, but still I think there would be a possibility that we don't really impose the studio from the back in terms of overpowering the frontage of the building. This is the feel which I get from the pictures you have shared earlier. So that's one kind of concern I would point out. The other thing in terms of we really welcome this kind of development in the area. We as a local councillors, Tony included, Unsa included, and other IBF councillors also, I kind of take liberty of sort of including them, that we want to make it look like this whole area like Golden Mile as the Golden Creative Mile for in the coming years, because this area has a lot to offer in terms of to the creative industry. Sky is there. I've been told Netflix have taken up an office there. History Channel is there. So there's an ecosystem which is already developing there, and we touched that upon when we met Tim at one of the when we visited the site, that there is a vision for the area, and that's I think which could be easily worked out because the ecosystem is already there. So we need to have those interconnections in terms of with the academic institutes which are in the area, but I would not limit it to the immediate area, but probably further afield also in terms of, where a lot of technology is in the part of the academic world, and we can bring those that kind of institutions also in this kind of creative partnership, which this Golden Creative Mile can offer basically. And I would like to see a little bit more, I would say, substance in the planning documents, in terms of when we say that we're going to sort of create this creative hub in this part of the world, or in this part of London. We want to see a little bit of more kind of thoughts from, and I've heard what Mark said, I think, and I fully appreciate and what he has said. But I think if we can make that as a part of the plan, that would be very useful, because then the community can see how the area can kind of progress and prosper as the studios and the filming and kind of those things come together basically. So that would be an element we would really and would like to see more of basically, and we are here to support you in that basically. Open doors with the universities and everyone.
We totally agree with you on that point. It's the most valid point. The document should really major on our contract, and we should work out a whole plan of how that's being presented in the document, so people see a real benefit and change into their education process. Thank you very much for that point. I really agree with you on that.
No, thank you very much. No, I think we are on the same side on that front. And also I think in terms of, I would not like to put a bit of a quota or something like that, but we have got very talented students in the area, and I think they're looking for opportunities where they can go do some internship. Some writers can come in and do some kind of writing courses and things like that. So if we can see more of that, that would definitely help. So yeah, I think we do, with open heart, we welcome and we like this site to be, as glamorous as what Gillett used to be, basically, So you are entering you're stepping back into history, if I were to say that. That's what this building offers. But really, we have to be respectful, and we have to see how we can, progress further in the future. So that's kind of, a very short kind of, view and things we may look for when you submit the formal application.
Thank you, Councillor Siddiqui. Yeah. For the comments, I can't see any more councillors. Okay, I can open it for IBAF councillors now. Anybody? I can't see any hands. Councillor Marina Sharma, you want to speak? Yes, you're next, please. Go on.
Hiya. Yeah, thanks for the presentation this evening. I just wanted to say that your plan for the future of the youth working within Gillett for the future, that's really good. But I'd also I know that Councillor Lukey said about the university and West Thames College, but I think that you could expand it even further. I think like Councillor Siddiqui may have touched on it just a second ago, but actually getting in contact with the local secondary schools as well, because I know that like ICT and everything there, and they're getting really involved in that within their curriculum at the moment as well, because obviously this is the future of film, and I think that would be good as well.
I think you're totally right. The secondary schools are super important because they get people inspired younger in what can often be seeing a relevance to something they're playing at home that they don't associate with education, but actually gives you an amazing career.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, from a
I was going to say a lot of the talent is actually coming from people who don't necessarily go to university, but go to practical training from school.
Yeah, I mean, from a personal perspective, I've got an 11-year-old daughter who's into gaming, but she's also into her arts and her crafts and her anime and designing and filming and doing little short videos. And I think that is the future.
Your daughter is our future recruits, the people who already are playing and working with all of this. And that's why it is the future for the youth, because they understand it in a way. You're quite right. I don't. I understand the potential for everyone, but I haven't been brought up in that language.
Yeah.
That's why I'm looking at the screen, not
But no, thank you.
Okay.
I know, Mark, you're a very shy man.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to look around Gillett in the summer as well with Councillor Lukey. That was really lovely to see. Obviously, because I was born and bred in Brentford, and we drove past that as a family, going to family members, and so it was lovely to be able to see it inside. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharma, for your comments. Okay, I can't see any more hands at all. Anything the applicant wants to add on? Okay,
Councillor
Councillor Todd, hang on, just before that, Councillor Todd, you got another
Yeah.
question?
Yes,
Or
please.
comment?
Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
Can you tell me about a bit more about your company or the applicant? Is it an English company? Who owns it? Is it quoted?
No, I'll explain. It's a UK company. It's founded in 2001. And as I said at the beginning, it's called the Vinyl Factory, and it's called the Vinyl Factory because we acquired the EMI vinyl pressing plant at Hayes, where we essentially saved that plant from being shut down by EMI. So we're very much into saving industries, and that has morphed into structures and buildings.
Saving the building, the plant within, really.
Yeah. So, you know, if you go down to Hayes and look at where the record plant is now, it's in an incredible turn of the 1900s building. That's been saved as well. That's currently being refurbished and saved for the future. So we're a UK company. We have a firm belief in saving buildings, businesses in the creative industries and supporting emerging and creative talent.
Do you develop them and sell them, or you retain ownership?
No, we retain them.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. And I can't see any more hands. So I will say thank you very much, everybody who's attended. And good night.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you.